said, we have a new practice to do in shower now. But maybe this is a question to ask you to sum up the whole festival. But what is a mission statement for advertising and communication like for the industry to further move forward into the future?
I think that that's a very big question, of course, and we can have the other panelists comment on that. But I think that, as I mentioned, you have the situation where technology has impacted all the businesses that are important to advertising and marketing. For instance, the first one to really be dramatically impacted was music. And then you have other situations like the media, newspapers, magazines, radio, outdoor. All the outbound parts of our business have been greatly impacted by technology, the impact of technology. Then we have a situation where the consumer has changed so dramatically that we have problems with just the concept of interruption. And we're thinking more about ideas that are, as mentioned earlier, that meet the consumer where they're at and when they're making choices. I don't think anything's changed over the years in terms of the importance of selling, persuasion, finding, building brands. That all remains the same. But then we have situations where client organizations are not structured the right way, and for this amount of change that's happening. And then we have agencies themselves that are rethinking. We had discussions about that at the jury, rethinking how they can re-architect what they're doing in order to make it current for all the things that have been impacting advertising now on a global basis. And then, as I mentioned, rethinking how you would be appropriate to various countries, and also local. So, they have a term which we all don't like very much, but global and local is a real big challenge today. And then there's just the fact that in many ways the advertising business will not escape the problems that are happening with, for instance, the music business, or the media business, or the entertainment business, or the car business. And we've seen all of these industries be impacted by exactly the same thing. And so we're in a very important period of reinvention. And we did see that with the entries. We did see that with the judges that are all fully up to speed on this change and doing great work with their agencies and pushing their clients, and sometimes their clients are pushing them into whole new areas of reinvention. So the advertising, marketing, communications, design businesses cannot just sit back anymore. Everybody is going through massive change. There's a tremendous retraining of people that have come out of so-called traditional agency businesses. And there's even becoming tradigital, which is traditional digital, because the business of digital has been around since '95, or perhaps a little bit earlier. And the people in the digital businesses have to constantly rethink and reimagine and reinvent themselves. With that, I'll turn it over to anybody who wants to comment. Rick?
So I think the question that was asked was quite big, and we can spend the next 8 hours talking about it. But just to go back, because I don't think we spent enough time talking about the integrated Grand Prix, because we moved on to other things. One of the questions that I was asking the jury when we were judging, what's the definition of integration? And I think now you can have a totally integrated campaign that uses, let's say, print, radio, and TV, right? And let's say it comes from Spain. And we can have one campaign, or one idea that is completely digital, right? But that can be so much more influential than a very well integrated campaign, right? So that's one thing. The other thing that I would say is that I worked on a campaign for Halo a couple of years ago. It won a Grand Prix in Integrate, I believe. And when I look back, and to be a little bit self-critical about that piece, is that, yeah, the idea was big, and it was integrated, but they were not connected necessarily. And I believe that we're moving from the age of integration to age of interconnection, right? So now to come back to the Live Strong piece that we didn't really talk about, to me, not only the idea of Lance Armstrong deciding to come back to the tournament, I think the big game-changing idea there was that it connected, right? And you might be doing and experiencing this campaign in different ways from different touch points, but they're connected. And it's technology that made that interconnection happen. And it's ironic and convenient that I see the line "connections made easy" on the Cannes Lions posters. So I think it's great that the theme of this whole show this year is all about connections, and I think we are going from integration to interconnection.
I have a comment on that, because I think it's a good point. I've been struggling all week, and I've been vocal to a couple of people, they probably don't want to hear me talk about it anymore, about the categories of titanium and integrated being together. And I've had a problem with it, but as I sit up here and I think about it, when you ask the question where the industry is going, I'm not sure I know that exactly, but maybe where this category is going, and probably for a good thing, because I look at a lot of integration, and it's some of them, it seems pretty boring because people are now taking off. So I think titanium may evolve into things that are game-changing ideas that are simple technology or one of these things, maybe like the Trump Force. But the integration, there's going to be such a higher level of the integrated campaign. It almost has to feel like a titanium-esque integrated campaign. So I think it's a good thing. And these guys are probably going to look at me like I'm crazy because I've been going the opposite, but I think about it that way now. It's actually pretty exciting to think that. So you ask about different countries and all those things. That's probably the thing that we're all learning, myself included, that when you're doing a can integrated, it has to feel titanium-esque. And I think Livestrong is a perfect example of that you have to have these two things because you want to be able to recognize something that's maybe smaller and very singular idea in one place, whether it's technology or something else. And then you want to also be able to understand that when it's titanium integration, it's a little more special than maybe even other shows when they have integrated category.
I would add one thing. I think when you look back over the past maybe 10 years, and particularly from the time that technology started to impact the business, so a lot of ideas were just about the technology. And I think that the big lesson moving forward, if anybody wants to pay attention, if you look at this list, every one of these campaigns tells a story. And I think that I've heard this maybe every day that we met. Somebody would say, wow, that's about the story, or that's the story. They talked about the story. And I think that when you look at every idea here, every one of them passes the simple story test. It's like if you were the storyteller in the village 1,000 years ago, sitting in the circle, you could tell any one of these ideas, and it would be understandable in any country, any language, any place, any village, whatever. And I think that going forward, technology is going to change. 3 years from now, we're going to be sitting here, and whoever's on this jury is going to be looking at whatever the next great technological advancement is, and 20 years from now, even more. But the one thing that will keep bringing winners to the table is if in that technology, if they use the technology to tell stories and to make those stories interesting, emotional, attractable, and all the other things that Bob talked about. And I think that is the thing that everybody has to keep in mind. For me, that's the single biggest lesson people should take out of it. Whatever it is, whatever they're working, whatever they're doing, you tell the story, and you do it really well, and use all the tools, you have a chance to win.
I think that David's made a really extraordinary point that we all believe in at the jury level, And we're missing the voice of Mark, who really is an amazing storyteller. So we just want to say that whether the story is linear or nonlinear, storytelling has never gone away from advertising, communication, design, etc. And it's become even more important. It's a little harder to do, so you need new innovative ways to do it. And we'll continue to come back to that big idea. I do want to reference one other thing that I think is important, is that the brands out there are most all experiencing commoditization, and that the way around it is innovation. So this category really taps into, be it integrated or titanium, and there is a blurring of the two, because we think that the integrated campaign could be a titanium, and the titanium winner is integrated. So there is a blur that's happening across almost all the categories of can these days. And but it's a fight against commoditization, because that is a really difficult problem to solve in today's world, with consumers acting so differently. And whether it's B2B or B2C or B2G, as Kai mentioned with an entry, they're all important to learn that, to overcome commoditization. Yes?
Just two questions. There are two Australian entries that have won